Garrett, I don't
Yep.
know if you've looked back at the other videos about Eleni kind of going over what she's working on, and I know it's contributing to her Facebook. Like she's actually making sales on her albums and stuff through Facebook, and it's because she has this automation system set up. I know we have several calls like where we've recorded kind of walkthroughs about that.
You're basically saying, hey, comment this word and I'll send you the link. So now all the people have to do is go to the comment section of the post, comment the word, and then there's a software that's linked to your profile that automatically DMs them the link and increases the traffic to the song while also making the song go viral.
And it works for stories too, Instagram stories. I noticed that. I don't know if you guys have seen where you don't get a lot of views on certain stories that you post, but if people like comment and like heart the story, like you'll get 10 times the reach. A lot of that you can do that and use these automations to get people to comment. Send your song, but it also gets 10 times the reach or whatever on your Instagram stories.
So there's one that we're playing around with right now. It's called Reply Rush. Eleni, we were actually just having a chat about this today, weren't we? Because we learned something new kind of the hard way.
It's too soon to talk
It's
about
too
this.
soon. I know. We realized Eleni had it set up probably the most complicated, like hardest way possible. And Joey recently discovered there's an easier way to do it. Explain it in like a nutshell. Just
So basically you can create the keywords. You create a keyword, they're like buzzwords. So when somebody comments a specific word, it'll trigger an automation. But with Reply Rush, you have to manually tag every single video and link it up on the back end. So every time you post, you have to go back in there. But there are some automations that you can do just like for your whole account. So you don't have to keep going back and doing that. And so you really just have to set it up once. It's called a global trigger or something like that. And so what we're doing and we're going to try to work on is doing a keyword for every single song of the album. And then as they release, hopefully you don't have to go back in there and keep like tagging and messing around with that. You can just focus on the content.
so like theoretically what that means is, so for Lenny's situation, like let's say this album has 18 songs. If we go into Reply Rush, and this is what we're working on right now, is setting it up so that there's 18 keywords, phrases, automations,
One for each song. Yep.
one for every song. Now we don't have to constantly go back in there. It's like whenever she releases a piece of content for one song, she says, comment this word that is relevant to that song. That word triggers the automation that sends the link for that song. So then it's just a matter of having a spreadsheet of like, okay, this word equals this song. So now I can say comment this. It just makes it easier. And what we're kind of realizing too is, Eleni, we think that these things are also getting a boost in virality because of all the comments.
Because of
It's
the
like
engagement. Yeah.
they engage because you're telling them to engage, and then you engage with them by default because of the automation. And it just seems to spin these things. I can show you guys an update as well. Man, I have too many tabs open. I'm going to stress everybody out.
Yeah.
There
she's
it
got
is. Okay, look at all those tabs. It's been a long day, guys. I'm catching up on a lot. What's cool though is, so check this out with Draw Me Close is a great example. This is one that's probably been performing the best so far with these tests. And, it's still doing really, really well. But we're looking at is like the user playlist. This is crazy. Like this is significant. 3,700 user playlists already in the first month. Like this is giving all the signs that this is going to be a monster song. And the other thing too is, I don't know if we've talked about this, but guys, so like when you're in your Spotify for artists, when you're looking at this data, here is,
We should zoom into that sucker. Yeah.
can I fit all my bars? I might be able to.
There you go.
We in? There it is.
Yeah.
Okay. How many of you guys have dove into this and like kind of understand what each one of these different bars segments is? Okay, I'll give you a little strategy here. What we have historically done is when we release a song, with Anthem Worship and Mass Anthem, typically what happens, guys, is the profiles are big enough where we get a lot of your profile and catalog. That is people literally going to your profile on Spotify and finding the song and streaming the song. So that's one that normally jumps up for us. The second one that normally jumps up for us is the Spotify algorithmic playlist down here. Again, we've talked about this before. This is in the Spotify course in the roadmap, but there's a website you can go to and you can find your popularity score as an artist. Meaning Spotify on the back end literally decides how popular you are and thus how much they will support you with the algorithm. And typically bigger artists that have released more music have gotten more streams and have trained the algorithms better, get more algorithmic support. So those two normally jump up for us, but this is the important thing here. So Lenny, I haven't even showed you this yet, but listeners' own playlists and library, this sucker is really, really important. This is what we want to pop off.
It's becoming more and more important than like what we've done in the past. Yeah.
So other listeners' playlists right here, this is typically from like our playlist network. So like we will support the music with our own curators and our own profiles and stuff like that and get that traffic. But our whole goal is we want the listeners' own playlist and library to pop off, because that means that listeners are literally adding that song to their own playlists and streaming it on there because they connect with it that much. And what we're noticing for this one for Lenny, this is the first one that's really starting to hit like this. Every song that we have had hit big on Spotify with all of our artists, with all of our albums, this is what happens. Long-term growth, this thing normally gets up to 40, 50% of the streams. And think about that. That means half the streams every day are coming from people's own playlists. That's a really safe long-term thing for a song, right? Because that means they're probably just going to keep doing it. So that's just something to think about, guys. When you're looking at these bars, it's like we kind of view them as like, okay, if we get these to go up, our goal is to trigger this one so that long-term listeners' own playlist and library goes up. But what that actually will do then is it also keeps training the algorithm. So then these two start just kind of feeding each other and they just start spinning out of control and the song gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Did you know only about 0.2% of Spotify artists make over $50,000 a year? And only about 0.1% of Spotify artists make over $100,000 a year? That's crazy, right? And believe it or not, we've been fortunate enough to be in the top 0.1% of Spotify artists for the past 5 years. We've generated over 500 million streams on our music. And now we teach artists exactly how we did it so that they can do it too. If you want a proven roadmap, weekly live calls, and a real network behind you, the Anthem Network is where you go to actually win. Get your 7-day free trial by clicking the link in the description below. We'll see you there.
So go back to the source of streams, because we have some really specific things that have happened to our company in the last 5 years. So for the last 5 years, we've been telling people, hey, you need to do a bunch of marketing. You need to get on playlists and you need to get song saves. And they're all great. And so the reason why we're telling them this is like, you want to feed the algorithm and trigger the algorithm. And then someday it's going to be like 80% algorithmic because you gave Spotify the data that you needed, which is great. Think of that as a nice boost, because for us, what worked for the early Mass Anthem albums in 2020 up until 2024, like mid to late 2024, we had entire albums just smacking the algorithm, like 80%. The only thing you have to be careful of as a business is when you have 80% Spotify algorithmic streams, don't get too comfortable in your business with your spending. Thankfully, we operate on really low margin, high margins with our company, because what happens probably like once every year, Spotify will change something in their algorithm that will favor other things. For example, the big one was it this year or last year?
Last year.
About the derivative songs, like releasing acoustic versions. Spotify just woke up one day and early in the new year in 2025 was like, if you keep doing multiple different versions of your songs, we're not going to pitch it to your release radar.
That was what me and Zach were just talking about in the room.
So like, if you're getting 80% streams from your Spotify algorithm, you have to be careful with your spending and not get used to that income, because overnight in 2024, we dropped by almost half that means half of our revenue from our streaming just was gone, like halfway through the summer. And so thankfully we have a lot of margin, but we were pretty reliant, and we were so used to seeing that income coming through. And it's just, as Spotify keeps tweaking things throughout the year, every year, now it's more important than ever to really hone in on your audience and think of the algorithmic boost. You might have really great success on the algorithm for a specific album for like 3 or 4 years, but just make sure that whatever money's coming in, that you're putting it back into other parts of your artistry or your business to keep moving the ball forward, because it may not be there forever.
And to reiterate that just a little bit. So last year was when, man, it was probably early Q1 of like February, March, somewhere around there. We basically just saw the stream just across every artist, every profile. Like it happened to everybody across the board. It was like they flipped an algorithm switch of like, all right, rules changed. Now, instead of just prioritizing this playlist support and this data, now we're also going to ask that you send us more high intent metrics from your listeners, from your fans. And we're going to start to prioritize that more. So then it's a matter of, okay, saves, traffic coming directly from social media to the streaming platform, users adding the music to their own playlist, like we're showing you right now. Those things are now starting to carry more weight than they were prior. And now you see this whole shakeup. But at the same time, we're seeing, and again, I think this is what happened too, is these bigger labels finally getting access to discovery mode for their big artists. And that was something that was reserved for independent artists. So like 4 years ago, we got to ride that wave of discovery mode. And we were one of the indie artists, in our space that had given the algorithm enough data that we got to capitalize on discovery mode. Huge. But what we think is happening now is you look at all these major artists, there's a lot of them in the Christian music space that we used to be at similar monthly listeners with. And after this whole switch, they like 2 or 3x'd, and ours got like clipped by 40% or 50%. So again, it's like, okay, why is that? They have real authentic fan audiences like we do as well, but like, you know what I mean? They're maybe at a higher level, and maybe that's why.
Do you have access to that chart, or is it it's too far in the past to see that dip in our monthly listeners?
Oh gosh.
And the streams?
But
Might be too late.
So I'll look for it, but just to quick summarize this up, guys. What you really want to see is listeners' own playlist and library right now. That sucker going up, because that is implying that your fan base, your listeners are really connecting with the song and they're intent on streaming this thing. And you're going to, get a lot of good stuff happening for your music from that. And this ties back to the whole strategy that we've been doing with Eleni of like, okay, if we use Feature FM to set up these, these links that we can capture all of this data really well, especially like future saves and all this stuff. And if we do that with automations and we can get stuff to go viral, then it sort of starts to turn on this machine. And now all this other stuff that we've been preaching to you guys about, like starting your own playlist, this is still valid. Like owning your own playlist, we still know tons of artists that have monster success on Spotify and the streaming platforms just from their playlists. So that is still a thing. But if you can then learn this side of the game with, how social media can impact this, it's just a game changer. And that's where you get some really cool long-term growth.
Before you head out, if that session gave you just one good idea, imagine what'll happen when you're actually in the room with us every week. That's what the Anthem Network is all about. Artists connecting, getting real-time feedback, and taking action together. You can join right now with a 7-day free trial and be part of the next live call for free. Don't just watch other artists grow with them. Click the link in the description and we'll see you on the next call.